Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the AAT60 and seeing how well this tank fits into the current meta. I'm going to feature 3 awesome games that I had with this tank last week with high results and winning performances. The first game will include Tier 6 matchmaking, the second game will showcase Tier 8 matchmaking, and the third and final game in this series is going to include Tier 10 matchmaking. I have chosen these 3 games so that you guys get to see how this tank performs against Tier 6 through Tier 10. You guys will want to watch till the end of the video since I have some exciting games to show today with team leading performances. At the end of this video, I have included a review of the tank along with my personal equipment loadout choices, and as a bonus, I have also included a comparison of this tank to its older brother, the Concept 1B, because there are some things in this comparison that will truly puzzle me, and I would like to bring them to your attention. Now, before we get into the games, I would like to say that there are many things Wargaming is doing that I do not agree with, but whoever is working in the Wargaming 3D Styles department, that team within Wargaming is amazing. That team within Wargaming is phenomenal and they are doing a fantastic job. I was absolutely blown away when I first saw this 3D style on the Call to the Frontier webpage, and honestly, I have to say, this is my most favorite 3D style in the game. That might just be the case because I really do like Star Trek, and I also like a lot of the Star Trek spaceship design. So I like the fact that they incorporated that into this new premium tank. Now, what I was not so blown away by was the information on that same webpage about the loot boxes. Anyways, I digress. The whole loot boxes situation is a topic for another time and another video. For now, let's hop into the first battle. This first game is a strange one, since this game literally lasts for less than 5 minutes, and I don't do my first shot of damage until a minute and a half into the game. So I'm going to skip ahead in the replay to the part where the action really begins. But before I do skip ahead, my loadout preferences for this map will include my turbo loadout, since the map is really small and I have no need for view range here. The standard APCR rounds of this tank have more than sufficient penetration in most cases, but since this tank can carry so many shells, I have a good balance of standard rounds with bullet rounds. Let's just move forward and pressure the enemy team. I could have done an intuition switch to high explosives here, honestly.
Enemy armor is hit. Enemy armor is damaged.
The town is pretty much clear of HP, so it's time to rotate over to the train tracks for the last bit of damage before this game ends. I was too slow to pick up that kill. Man, I'm gonna feel bad about shooting this AMD. I really like this guy. Now that the AMD is out, I want to press forward and see if I can at least secure 3k damage. I don't like that this G-Sword is coming in my direction too, because he's got a clip and I really don't want to share my damage with him.
Enemy fuel tank is hit.
G-Sword will pick up that last kill here, but we still managed to get the high caliber medal with 3.4k damage and a 4k combined score. Thanks to the AMX-12T acting fast, we also managed to platoon last minute for the Brothers in Arms. I do manage to get 1,166 base experience this game, but no ace tanker unfortunately. But next round will be a different story and we do manage to get that ace tanker, so stick around. This next round will be on Cliff, and this will be a purely tier 8 battle. I'm going to opt for my turbo loadout again this round, since my tank is pretty slow and I don't want to rush the E3 position in this tank. Instead, what I want to do is I want to go wide and push the 8-9 line area. The one thing that will hold this tank back for most players is the fact that it is a slow tank even though it has no armor. For a glass cannon tank, you would expect it to be a little bit faster, but that is not the case with the AAT60. And it looks like I'm not going to be alone in this flank, as my brother from the fine establishment of the United States Army will be joining me in this flank. Since I do have support on this flank, I'm going to try to push the H9 area and see if I can get behind the enemy team in mid. I didn't want to keep that 122 TM alive, so I decided to make a dangerous poke to get him out of the game. I lost half my HP for it, so I'll have to play very carefully for the remainder of the game. Fortunately, I didn't get completely blasted here, so I'm still in this fight. Now I tell my friendly AAT60 to fall back because if you guys are paying attention to the minimap, the enemy AAT60 managed to make it to the top of the hill, which means we can't really play 8-9 line anymore. And we can no longer take the H9 position that I wanted to capture at the start of the game. So I decided to fall back and play the mid next. Since our Colada has pushed all the way around the hill and has engaged with the T26E5, I'm going to do something very risky over here, and I'm going to poke over onto their side of hill to help with smacking that T26E5 and getting him out of the game. Yes, I'm aware of the AAT60, but I would much rather shoot at this GW shitter. Pushing up to that rock, looking over the enemy base, I managed to create vision for my team and get 2,450 spotting assistance in less than a minute, leading to the complete destruction of their 3 tanks sitting in the corner. Now, it's time to hold W and get to that SU-130PM. I want to say that as much as I like this tank, I'm finding it to be slow, honestly. Yes, the tank can move at 50 kilometers per hour with a turbo, but I really feel like tank like this should be able to move much faster than it currently can, considering the fact that this is a glass cannon tank with no armor. It was a really good call to abandon the 8-9 lines this game and come back to the mid. Our Pantera also knocked off the enemy AAT60 off the hill, which allowed me to push forward and get a bunch of spotting assistance on the enemy tank destroyers as well as the enemy Lansen. This round, we managed to do 2.9k damage along with 2.4k spotting, which puts our combined score at 5.3k approximately. We also managed to get the ace tanker, ending up at the top of the leaderboard by a base experience amount just 2 points shy of 1.3k. Props to the Iron Arnie on my team, who also did a lot of heavy lifting this round. Before we hop into the next game, let me know if you also purchased the loot boxes to get your hands on this tank in the comments down below. I was able to pick up this tank on my 176th loot box. Let me know in the comments section down below how many boxes did you have to open in order to get this tank, and if you do enjoy this tank or if it's not really a tank that fits your playstyle. Now, let's hop into the next battle, where I will be taking on tier 9s and tier 10s with my AAT60.
Delete artillery. Delete artillery. Delete artillery.
As long as this IS-7 continues to push the beach, then I can also push forward and support it. With the enemy projectile out of the game, now I can comfortably move up and get closer to the E-50 and the Iron Army.
Delete artillery, because artillery is
unfair and broken.
is clear, it's time for me and the IS-7 to push the heavy tank flank and get involved there. I'm surprised that this AMX didn't try to fall back after getting hit by both me and the IS-7, but I'm glad that he didn't fall back because he just gave me 3 shots of damage on him for free. Last bit of HP left on the enemy team is with their STRV, so the race is on between me, the IS-7, and our Manic War. Sky Sentinel is going to pick up the ram kill on that STRV here, but I honestly don't mind since I've had a great game. See, this was a tier 10 game, right? But I pretty much pushed up with my IS-7. This is because my IS-7 took out the enemy Progetto early on in the game and was applying pressure on their E50, which allowed me to push up right next to the E50 and the Iron Army, and it allowed me to take out the Iron Army once the IS-7 had cleared the E50. I was lucky to have an IS-7 teammate that was pushing, and I simply supported him, which is the way you have to play this tank in higher tiers. In tier 10 matchmaking, you're a support vehicle. That's the way to go in this tank. We ended this game with a score of 3.2k damage and 1.6k assistance, which leaves us with around 4.8k combined. We were top by damage in a tier 10 game, and we picked up another ace tanker with 1,259 basic units. Now, I'm going to be looking at the equipment loadout choices for the AAT60 here in a second, but before we get there, I just wanted to bring something to your attention. Now, I'm no expert on this, so I may be completely wrong, and this is just an observation. I looked at tanks.gg, and the AAT60, which is a glass cannon tank, medium tank, that has no hull armor pretty much, and it has no turret armor, it has a weight of 43,000 kilograms, which just seems really heavy considering the fact that we have, if you look at the Object 274A, which has a little bit more hull armor than the AAT60 and definitely way more turret armor than the AAT60. This tank weighs about 3,000 kilograms less than the AAT60. And to me, it just doesn't make sense in my mind how that is. Also, if you look at the Tit Rozanov, it's the same story. It's got way more armor than the AAT60, still weighs 3,000 kilograms less. But what boggles my mind the most is how is it that the AAT60, how is it that this tank with way less armor weighs almost exactly as much as the Concept 1B at tier 9, which has almost double the frontal hull armor, definitely has more than double the side hull armor of the AAT60, and it has way more turret armor than the AAT60. So I don't understand how is it that the Concept 1B only weighs 600 kilograms more than the AAT60. And please do comment down below if you know something about this, because to me, in my mind, it just doesn't really make that much sense. The AAT60 is a very strong tank in my opinion. It is not weak, but it is not overpowered either. I enjoy medium tanks and light tanks way more than heavy tanks, so my opinion here is going to be a little biased, so I would take it with a grain of salt. I think casual players will struggle with this tank because of the fact that it has no forgiving armor. But overall, this tank has a fantastic gun with amazing gun handling and excellent shell selection. So I really did enjoy my time playing with this tank in the previous week. And I had some really good sessions with the AAT60. Now, as far as setting up this tank, what I do is my first loadout is a mobility loadout for the smaller maps or medium-sized maps. So I have my mobility improvement system added on this tank. I also do run a bond rammer as well as some bond vents. I do think that's the ideal loadout for these smaller maps. And with bond vents, you can get above 445 base range on this tank, especially if you're using that premium consumable and if you have your crew trained appropriately for this tank. Now, with this current setup, we're getting 2,944 DPM on a tier 8 tank, which is phenomenal. Not to mention that with this setup, my dispersion on the move is at 0.11, which is also fantastic, considering the fact that I also played the Object 274A, another tier 8 premium Soviet medium tank, a lot, and that tank, compared to this one, is way worse in the gun handling category at least, because that tank is not really playable without vertical stabilizers, versus with this tank, you could choose to drop the vents and replace those with the vertical stabilizers, but I honestly don't know whether it would be worth it or not, and I'm finding that I'm doing just fine without the vertical stabilizers so far. So I personally opted for the vents. Now, for the bigger, more open maps, I would just take off the turbo and replace that with optics. Now you could go with a loadout like this, which is going to maximize your view range, take it all the way up to 520, or you could choose to go for a full spotting build. Now, I would never say take off the rammer, but sorry, just give me a second. Yeah, what I was going to say is you could put in a CBS, and then you could just put in a rammer there as well. So this way you still have your DPM, but now you have the ability to spot really well for your team. And some of the games that I've played in this tank, one of the reasons why I was able to get such high scores for my team was because I went with my spotting loadout and I created vision for my team. So I would definitely recommend optics for a spotting loadout, and then you can choose whether you want to have CVS or just use vents. Both would work just fine, honestly. And I'm sure some people would want to use improved aiming device or innovative targeting. That would also work, but honestly, I don't think it's really worth it for the AAT60 because this tank is already accurate. It's accurate enough. And it's got a fast reload speed, and you don't have any shortage of shells. So that's why, for me personally, I would not take an improved aiming device on this tank, because if I miss, I'll just shoot again. As always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys on the next one.